sweet Annie O'Donnell, Ducks podcaster. Happy summer, Annie. Looks like you're having a great one down there in Southern California. Am I right?
Yes, sir, Rod. Good summer over here. Hope all is well with you in Florida as well.
Yeah, I wanted to cool off a little bit, so I came up here to Charlotte, North Carolina, where it's only 95 Fahrenheit with humidity here today. Yeah, so we're calling USA football games over the next couple of days. Annie, I'm going to jump right into this because I want your take. The Ducks draft and off season. Where are you grading them, and how are you feeling going into next season?
So honestly, I like what I see so far from Pat Verbeek. You're starting to see the vision here a little bit more, whereas last season it was, his first full season. You're like, okay, what's going to happen with this team, where the season prior had that hot start in the very first half and then kind of came back down to earth. How are they going to do one more year of Dallas Eakins, get some of these new guys their second year? How's that going to go? Of course, Jamie Drysdale going down early on didn't help that case. So now Pat Verbeek knows what he has to work with, got that second overall pick, and just with the head coaching hire, with some of the free agents that he's been able to pick up so far, obviously still more to come. I think the Ducks have about $28 million in cap space still. But I like that Pat Verbeek is really centering around, all right, let's get these young guys built up and acclimated to the league as quickly and as best possible. I mean, with the Greg Cronin hire, really emphasizing in the development of players. You've got the Killorn and Gudis signings as well to add that veteran presence and leadership there to kind of help mold the young guys coming in. So far, and of course it's very early on, I think you would kind of get that July 1st free agency deadline, and we forget, we can keep signing free agents. There's still more signings, more trades to come, especially with all the goalies, especially John Gibson, those names on the market. But I'd give a B plus so far. I'm not going to give an A because it's still early.
Well, you're a hard teacher, Annie, but I like what Pat's doing too, and I thought that Greg Cronin hire was like way out of left field, but you also don't know. I've been around the game long enough. You never know how somebody knows somebody else or where their connection was or whatever, and I hope that it works out.
Right.
But Enor watching on YouTube says, why does Gibson want out? And that's where I should have opened with you. Can you make sense of the John Gibson situation, please? Because I'm confused.
I mean, it's the same song and dance every offseason, every trade deadline. His name is always thrown around, especially given where the Ducks are as a franchise. I mean, think about it. He's 29 years old, and what was just years prior, he was, up there, people saying, oh, this is a future Vezina winner, putting up elite numbers, was a top 5 goalie in the league. And then, of course, with injuries and just where the team is going, and frankly, not building an appropriate team around him while he was, at that peak. We're at 29 years old, bottom of the league. He's saying, hey, like, if I want a Stanley Cup, I don't think this is the team to do it. So, I mean, and honestly, think about it. If you're John Gibson, the amount of shots that man faces game in and game out, the amount of workload that guy has, to a point where, people are kind of looking at him saying, is he just on a bad team or is he just not a good goalie? And that's got to be frustrating for a guy in his position. So I honestly completely understand. And like, if he wants out, and it sounds like, if what we're all hearing is true, and I know he went on the Craig and Strick podcast just a couple days ago, and where he said, hey, this kind of is what it is. I don't know if I'll be in Anaheim come, opening night or somewhere else. But if you look at a guy in his situation, you got to say, you can't really blame him for wanting out and wanting a chance to shine with a better team in front of him, an older team, a more, built, experienced team in front of him. Obviously, love the guy, would love for him to stay. And there's obviously the contract's not easy to move. I think he's got 4 more years with that just above $6 million cap hit. So it won't be an easy move, but Pat Verbeek, I'm sure, is going to try to get as big of a return as he can.
Thank you for the explanation. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and Frank doesn't have a history of being wrong. And unfortunately, as much as I love agents, you can't always believe what they have to say. But Annie, completely off the board. Here's a question I don't think you'll ever get. Maybe if you have, correct me, but I was doing an event with Ryan Getzlaff recently, a couple months ago, and he was like, there's no media in Anaheim at all. He goes, if we went through the Ontario swing on Ottawa and Toronto, I would do more interviews in a week than I would do all year in Southern California. So do you think that your popularity, I'll say it, you didn't, on TikTok and so forth as a Ducks podcaster is because of that? Is there a glaring absence that kind of allowed you to fill the void in your mind?
That's a good question. And I do think a good part of I do think that's part of it. I will say I think another part of it is I am a woman talking hockey on the internet. So I think there's a glaring need there too. But yeah, I mean, you look at the media space, of course, you go every Canadian, there's tons of Toronto people, tons of Montreal, but even down in the States, you got tons of Boston media personalities, New York, Chicago. I mean, I won't throw Pittsburgh in there quite yet, but there's a good Pittsburgh media space there too. And you kind of see these, I'll say it, smaller, non-traditional, even though ideally Anaheim's in the LA market and it's not a small market, but for hockey, it is a smaller, non-traditional market. So I will say, yeah, it's a niche market. You get these media people, and whether they're creators, whether they're podcasters, writers, whatever, that are from Florida, that are from Arizona, California, hell, even Seattle, I'll throw in there, Vegas even, they're going to get a little bit more eyes there, which is funny thinking about that, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you have the Florida Panthers that just went on their Cup final run, which was lovely seeing your content from that run. But the Athletic doesn't even have a writer on staff for them, and that's crazy to me.
Listen, Annie, we need an hour to go over, maybe more, because when I'm in Florida, those Panthers fans are stopping me on the concourse going, we need more, more. We want more coverage. And I'm like, well, I'm still in Canada half the time, moving, like I got to do those teams and the CFL, but they want it. That's why I kind of had a sense that you're getting the same thing, and I actually talked to the Athletic and I said, hey guys, you got nobody down here. I'm at the games if you want somebody to cover it. And they're like, nah, we're good. There's no appetite for it. And I'm like,
that's
maybe
not
come
true.
down here, guys. And you didn't. No, I'm like, come down here and you'd see there is.
Right.
But whatever, you can't lead a horse to water, however, what they say. Well, that's about all I had. Yeah. Other than the other thing, I'm glad to hear you say as a female reporter, and we only got about a minute left here, but you also just elbow people out of the way. You don't take anybody's guff. And I really admire that. Because there's a lot of idiots out there. So kudos to you for doing that. Clearly doesn't bother you.
Rod, I grew up with 4 brothers, no sisters. I've been doing it my entire life. So it's
that
just another
explains
day
a lot. That explains a lot. All right, Annie, everybody give her a follow on TikTok and Twitter, wherever you do. And Annie, thanks for this. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Let's do it again soon.
You as well, Rod. And yes, anytime.
Sweet Annie O.D., Ducks podcaster, joining us from Southern California.